for you with the mic and everything. Look at you. Look at you about to do something. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Zamir.
What's your name?
Zamir.
Zamir. Nice to meet you. I thought you said you were the bear. I said, oh. Oh, they got Ames already. Nice to meet you, sir. What grade you going to? Fifth. Okay. All right.
Ricky.
Ricky. Nice to meet you, sir.
Hey, Pastor Warren.
Pastor Moore. Nice to meet you.
Shaven McKenzie.
Nice to meet you, Mr. McKenzie.
Eric Paul.
Eric, Mr. Paul. Good to see you.
Alexandria.
Nice to meet you, Alexander.
Dana Ash.
Good to see you, man.
Cliff Black.
Mr. Black.
Michael Frame.
Les Woodson.
Nice to meet you.
Fred.
Okay.
Carl Bassett.
Good to see you, sir. Pastor.
Yeah, so we want to thank you for this opportunity. This is a new ministry that came about from obviously from what happened with George Floyd last year. And while sitting at home watching the protests and things like that, I started wondering to myself, what could we do? And I knew that protests would last for a little while and then it would dissipate. So God gave me this vision of starting this ministry where we actually get involved with the young men's lives early in their lives to help direct them in the right direction, hopefully. Now, our goal is really to introduce the young men to life outside of Nottoway. Most of them very rarely leave Nottoway, even after they graduate. So we want to introduce them to life outside of Nottoway, as well as we want to introduce them to successful black men such as yourself to be able to tell your story, how you were able to do what you've done. Just watching your campaign last year, well, 2 years ago, I believe.
Last year, actually.
Last year.
And felt like 2 years ago.
Yeah, and the story you told, I was like, wow. I think young men need to hear that story, how they can overcome. So that's one of the reasons why I reached out to your office, to introduce you to the ministry, as well as get you to just talk to them and let them see, again, successful black men like yourselves, doing great things. We don't have to have aspirations to be a basketball player or a rapper or anything. It's other opportunities out there. So our chairman is Michael Frame right here. He's the chairperson. Definitely, his background is from the Department of Correction.
Okay.
Deputy warden, correct?
Yeah, assistant warden, 31 years with the department.
Wow.
Retired last December.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
For your service.
Yeah, Mr. Paul here, he's a retired police officer out of Lawton.
Loudon County.
Loudon County.
Northern Virginia.
Yeah. So, and you say, how did Nottoway connect with Loudon County? Well, he's a native of Nottoway County.
Okay.
Sometimes you got to go back home and get back.
That's right.
Your success is not your success until you share it.
Right.
Absolutely. So he did an awesome presentation Saturday on conversation over confrontation. What you should do if you're pulled over by the police, what your rights are. So we're grateful to have him. We have 2 retired military, high-ranking NCOs, Deacon Cliff Black, Fred Henry, retired Army. We have a retired government worker, Les Woodson, also a trustee of the Spirits. And we have some of the young people here today. We also have one of my associate ministers who's taking pictures for us called Bassville. So that's what we have.
So we're not where we're based. It's a church.
We're right outside of, we're close to Fort Pickett.
Okay.
So we can almost throw a rock to Fort Pickett, but we're right off of 606.
Okay, yeah, when I was a young man, about the age of the young people with us today, I used to go to I guess it was a student council association camp. It was at the Methodist.
Yeah.
Is that at Blackstone?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not getting your business in my house. Exactly. How old are you?
I'm 40.
I think I remember you. I'm 38.
You're 38? Yes, I went to that camp when I was a young man.
Yeah.
That was my first introduction to Nottoway County.
Wow.
And I was able to build I have some friends from Nottoway as well because of the work I used to do for the Democratic Party of Virginia. Let me just say, and Pastor, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for y'all coming into the capital city as well. We'd like to welcome you all to City Hall. This is the seat of government here in Richmond. And as you all know, Richmond being the capital city as well, I think we are the center of the universe for Central Virginia. So I appreciate y'all coming out. And you're right, I appreciate the example, Pastor, that you are setting for the young people, all of you around the table, you're setting for the young people, because there's a lot of, I'll admit, as a young man, I guess when you hear my story, the first assumption is when you're born to a couple of teenagers. My father was 19, my mother was 16 when I was born. By the grace of God, I was, my grandmother was in my life, and I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that woman, And her and my father, they poured a ton of love and made some serious sacrifices for me to be where I am today. But when you hear that right there, normally the destination from that starting point is sometimes jail, right? Imprisonment, incarceration, or unfortunately for a lot of black men, it's death as well. My father and my grandmother, growing up in New York, thank you, Terrell, they wanted a better life for me. My dad never graduated from high school. Heck, my grandmother and my grandparents didn't graduate from high school. But they wanted a better life for me. And so a better life for me meant us moving to Hampton Roads, moving to Virginia, because they heard there was a place for opportunity. And they were like, you know what, we're going to make sure we get these kids the best opportunity possible. So I became the first of my family to graduate from high school, the first of my family to go to college, and the first of my family to graduate from college. And my father and my grandmother always made an impression upon me that there's nothing special about me, right? Because the story that I have is a story, unfortunately, that is played out in a lot of black families in this country. But they made it, public service was sort of my way of paying back what I was able to gain. And I sit here today and I pinch myself to be the mayor of the great city of Richmond, because it could have been a whole lot different. Could have gone a whole lot different. And never had my mother really involved in my life. But I got to where I am today through a lot of hard work, determination, but also I recognize there's a lot of sacrifice. I look at my family, whether it's my father or my grandmother, they were smart individuals. They were very smart, very gifted, very talented. But there were circumstances, unfortunately, that got in their way that they weren't able to, I think, live their full potential. They've given me that opportunity, and I've chosen not to squander that opportunity. Unfortunately, what I see from a lot of young brothers is the squandering. I see such talent in Richmond, whether it's in the East End or in South Richmond, all over, such talented young men. But I've seen, unfortunately, that talent is squandered sometimes. And I've chosen not to squander this opportunity, but also I know that the number one thing I can do is pass that on to someone else. Right? I think sometimes folks forget when you climb to these sort of heights in our career that you got to lift that hand out and bring other people up with you.
That's right.
If you're not doing that, then why are you in roles like this? That's how I've always seen it. So when I graduated from college, I got right involved in working on political campaigns and whatnot. I thought, if I'm not going to run for office myself, I'm going to learn how the whole system works. And I got to advise candidates. I ran campaigns. My first job was just knocking on doors in black communities, actually, trying to get folks registered to vote, but also getting them out to vote as well. Worked myself up to, at age 26, I ran the Democratic Party of Virginia. I don't know if y'all know, I think her name's B. Brito. B, she was on the board of supervisors for a little bit. For Nottaway.
I'm not a native. I'm not.
Okay, gotcha.
Prince George.
But I met so many people along the way running the Democratic Party of Virginia, and one of the people I met was former Governor Terry McAuliffe, who's running for governor today. And when I met Terry McAuliffe, he had lost, and he was looking for someone to advise him on his next run. And since I had all these relationships throughout the Commonwealth, I said, yeah, I would love to work for you and introduce you to all the people who I know. So that's exactly what I did for about 3 years, traveling to all parts of Virginia, Southwest Virginia, South Side. We were everywhere on the road. We really burned up some tires and some. We really got out there, and so he won. And when he won, he asked that I serve as the Secretary of the Commonwealth. And when I first became Secretary of the Commonwealth, I was the first black person to hold that role and the youngest person of Governor McCall's cabinet as well. And one of the main responsibilities under that role is clemency, or I like to put it very similar as forgiveness and redemption, an opportunity to actually put that into your value structure and system and give back. And my father was a former offender, committed a felony in the past. And in Virginia, when you get a felony on your record, as you know, you lose the right to vote in perpetuity, forever. Essentially, you are relegated to second-class citizenship in Virginia. Governor McCall wanted to change that, and I wanted to be involved in that. So, using my role, I helped Governor McCall restore the rights of roughly 200,000 people in Virginia. Over 200,000 people, and you know, hopefully I made my father proud. My father and my grandmother, unfortunately, they were never around for me to see me raise my hand to take the oath of office for both secretary and for mayor. But I know they're watching now, and how I govern, I use their experiences and the values they sort of blessed me with as my model for governing, because the folks I see each and every day in this walk in life, folks who I see in my family. You know, I see grandmothers taking care of grandchildren. I see fathers looking for a second chance. That's Richmond. And so I've always said, you know, Richmond is my family, but truly it's truly my family. So it's like, what would you do for your family is how you, I think, should act in a role like this as mayor. And so it has certainly been a journey, but like I said earlier, I pinch myself every day because I feel lucky, but I feel blessed to get to do what I do. But and Terrell knows this, and Cordell knows this, and Kenny knows this as well, is that I love children because that's the future. And I could be having a bad day in my job, which, you know, me and the mayor, we were talking to everybody. Y'all see it on TV. Y'all see it. But what will perk me up is going to the school, getting to read or going into the schools, no matter what grade, because that reminds me of why I'm doing this, right? Why you're in this, and I think sometimes folks forget this. Our job is to contribute to their success, right? And also, you know, to give them a chance to be successful. And we all know the challenges that are before black men these days, you know. And you said you saw the protest last year, but I would tell folks, you know, there's more than just policing. That's the issue. We got issues with housing, issues in education, right? When we talk about justice and equity, we got to start at the foundational part, right? You know, that's with the family, getting them everything they need to succeed. And so, I take this job very seriously. I'm passionate about it, and I don't want to squander 8 years. I'm lucky enough to get 8 years to do this. I just don't want to squander it. So I wake up every day with the children of the city of Richmond on my mind, and the people here on my mind. So I know that I heard the kids have some questions, possibly. When you got the camera and everything, I'm sure you got some questions. No questions? Oh, I know. They shy right now. I know that. You get out of here.
We actually got, I think we got 23 young men, but for the most part, most either are in Sunday school, summer school, or something else. So, you know, we only had a few to show up today. But I guess for a general question is, how difficult is it for you to be the mayor?
You know, I get that question a lot. Like, how difficult is the job? And the job is challenging, but I wouldn't say it's difficult, right? I think about my father when I get that question because my father was a custodian. He was a janitor in schools. He worked a lot of odd-end jobs before when he died at age 49 years old. He was a janitor at a local high school. And I went to work with him, right? And I'm not gonna lie, he dreaded going to work every day because he was doing something I think he didn't love, right? He didn't love. And that's why he always requested of me and my brother that you want to do well in school and work hard so you can go do what you love. And luckily enough, I've been able to do what I love each and every day. And so they said when your passion and what you love and your skills sort of intersect, you would never work a day in your life.
That's right.
And so for me, the job is not difficult, but it does present challenges. But you don't grow without some challenges. Right? If I'm, to all the young people here, go find yourself a challenging job because that's the only way you're going to grow in your trade and in your craft. Is find something challenging. But it's not as difficult as the job that my dad had to do: mop floors, sort of peel the gum off of desk chairs and whatnot. To me, that's difficult. I'm lucky enough to have a job in which I love and passionate about. So I don't find it difficult at all. I find it challenging, but not difficult.
But as a black man,
let's talk about the challenges. Let's talk about the challenges. There are certain, and this is a message to the young people in the room here. People, particularly when you're black, whether you're a black woman or a black man, they want to put you in a box, right? He or she can't do X, they can't do. It's almost back to I played quarterback when I was younger as well, and as you all know, particularly now you see a proliferation of black quarterbacks. But back in the day, being a black and being a quarterback was not the thing. Right? and now there's black quarterbacks everywhere, right? That's a good thing. But even in this job, I'm an executive, not a legislator, right? I'm an executive, a CEO. I'm obviously not smart enough. I can't take care of the finances. I'm soft on crime. All these things they lay at the feet of black mayors, and I'm none of those. And so every time I go to work, I want to prove them wrong and say, we can run our city and do it well. We can be profitable. The revenue comes in. Our practices are tight. We can do that in Richmond. I want to show them that a black man can run a AAA city. I got the highest credit rating that we've ever had for the city of Richmond under black leadership. And so to me, I use it as a motivator. Yeah. When they try to hey, here's the thing. I got residents and Terrell Senior, have said and done some disrespectful things to me. One time I was at a town hall and guy was like, well, we'll read it to him, make him, he can't understand. Explain it to him. I said, whoa. I may not be a lawyer, I may not have a JD, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Right? Those sort of microaggressions, get it every day. Wow. Get it every day. And even this is a more progressive city than it once was, because if you're a Virginian or if you grew up in Central Virginia, you know how Richmond used to be, and we are far beyond that. But I get some sort of microaggression, and sometimes it's not even micro; it's just aggression. I took down the monuments, right? I get that. And here's the thing: I took down those monuments because it was the right thing to do. But I look back at it, I don't want to be defined as the black mayor who took down the monuments. I'd rather be defined on my work that I work, the things I work on the other 364 days out of the year, right? Taking down the monuments was one day. Let's talk about all the other things that we do to lift people up in the city. I think sometimes it's hard to get the press to focus on that. The things we're doing for the downtrodden, for those who are looking for a second chance. How about we focus on that? They'd rather focus on, the mayor took down the monuments, you know that, right? That was one day out of 365.
See, the positive things you don't want to report.
That's right.
You want to report all the negative.
They prefer to report the conflict. And here's the thing with the newspaper, with the media being what it is today, the newspaper industry, they got to create clickbait, so they got to create conflict. Oh, the mayor's at odds with this and all that. And here's the thing: I recognize in government we're not all going to agree on the same thing, and I think that's wrong with politics today as well, because everybody expects you to be 100% this, that, and the other. I've never met one person that you can say outside of maybe my family, or even them, I got little issues with them sometimes. Do we agree with on 100% of everything? No. And if you don't agree with 100% of everything, then you get canceled. What about compromise? What about doing what's right for the common good? You don't get that anymore. And maybe I'm not naive and I'm just looking through the world in rose-colored glasses, but I still believe you can still get around the table with people you don't agree with and find compromise.
Yeah,
That's what people want.
you said challenges. I mean, that's so true because a lot of our young folks nowadays, when they face a challenge, they do what? They quit and move on.
I was talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
What we need to do for our children is build resilience, right? The ability to bend, but not to break, right? They need to persevere through adversity. What I see out here is when met with adversity, what happens? Some people break in certain ways. Sometimes when met with adversity, they act out. But we've all been on a team before, right? And the first roadblock that comes your way, first obstacle, the person starts acting out, gets fouled out. I said, well, once you're out of the game, you are no use to anybody on the team. And we see that in our neighborhoods as well. When met with adversity, or unfortunately met with hopelessness, you act out and do things, that's what happens. And so I'm finding ways, I think we have to find ways first to give our children and our people more hope, but also give them skills to when they are met with adversity, they don't break, they just bend.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things my parents would, I'm sorry to keep talking so much, but one of the things my parents told me that if you want to do something, then you got to stick with it through. So for example, football, if I wanted to play football, I had to go through the whole season. I couldn't quit.
That's right.
Now, next season, you don't have to sign up, but you're not going to say you want to do it, and because the coach fussed at you,
That's
then
right.
you want to quit. My mom was like, no, you're going to stay there.
That's right.
Until the end of the season. The next season it's up to you. But what I'm seeing is a lot of our young folks, as soon as adversity comes, they throw up their hands and ready to quit.
And I'll tell you a story, Pastor. So when I was a freshman in high school, I was trying out for the football team, and I learned that they're not going to have a JV team this year. And so I was like, oh no, I want to be a rag doll. You know, just being thrown around by all these bigger seniors and juniors. And I was going through all the two-a-days, and I was just getting beat up. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And my dad was working his job as a custodian. He would come all the way across town, pick me up, and take me to my second practice. So this time, I was trying to find a way in my head to tell my dad I was going to quit. I was moping around, I was moving real slow, and he was like, let's go, I got time, I got to get back to work. I get in the car, and you know how your parents know something's up before you even know it? We start driving down the road, and he was like, what's wrong with you today? I was like, oh, nothing, just tired. And then he kept on driving, the sun was silent, and he was like, oh, you want to quit, don't you? And I said, yeah, Dad, they're not going to have a junior varsity team, so I think, I might as well spend my time doing something else then. And he parked the car right in the parking lot of the football field, turned the car off, and he said, here's the thing, you're not going to quit. Because if you quit today, you're going to be finding reasons to quit at every obstacle that's ever put in your way. And I was like, wow. And he was like, so you're going to get out of this car, take them pads, go to the locker room, and have a good practice. And sure enough, I became the starting quarterback of the junior varsity football team. I became the starter in the varsity team the next year. And I say that because that was the first, if I gave myself reason to quit over something small like that, imagine all the big challenges that I have in life now. I'd be quitting all the time. Wouldn't be here right now. I really don't think I would be here right now if I didn't learn that lesson early. And so for our young people, you are going to have obstacles, but your job is to outsmart the obstacle, right? Someone's going to put it, you're going to have to think about, do I go around it? Do I go through it? Do I go underneath it? Do I go over top of it? That is going to happen. It's about how you tackle the challenge, though. You can expect that to happen. People are always going to throw things. And here's the thing also to my young people as well. There are people waking up each and every day when they eat their Cheerios and their Wheaties on how they keep young black and brown people down. That's what they do. That's what, when they eat their Cheerios in the morning, that's what they're working on. Some of them are policymakers. Some of them are lawmakers. That's what they're working on. So you gotta recognize that you're gonna face these challenges. It's about how you tackle the challenges, though. And that means, yeah, you may fail one time, but what I know, I'm not gonna give up. It's either the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. And the fixed mindset is, you get a C on one of your tests, well, that's as good as I'm gonna ever be, as a C. The growth mindset is, all right, I got a C this time, I'm gonna get a B the next time, I'm gonna get an A the next time after that. I've always chosen to have that growth mindset. Yeah, I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna fail maybe, potentially. But the next time, I guarantee you I'm gonna come back even harder. And I think that's what our kids need. They need to hear that sometimes, that, you know, you may fail once, but let's talk about the second time, the third time, the fourth time. Because if you give up after that first time, then you've done exactly what the folks eating their Cheerios in the morning wanted you to do. They know that you're not gonna come back the second time. When you talk about these voting laws, right? Yeah. Oh, let's make it difficult. Let's make it just a little bit more difficult because you know they're gonna give up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You know, thinking about Georgia, right? You know,
right.
Oh, we make it so that you can't have any food outside, or no, can't give folks water. You know they're not gonna stand outside any longer, right? That they make these odds because they think that we're gonna give up. We give up too easily. Or thankful to my father, grateful to my father and my grandmother, I don't give up easily. It's gonna take a whole lot.
When they perceive us as threats, that's when they go to changing the laws and the activities and the things to try to keep us. Because right now with what you're going through and trying to make Richmond better, especially around that Coliseum area, I've been watching you're a threat.
That's right.
You're a threat the way things have always been done in this community. So they make it more difficult for anybody that they perceive a threat to try to move forward.
And that's always been the case when you look at whether in American history, American politics, is that anytime that you change the way something's done, oh, this person is a threat to us. And here's the thing, I've even encountered this is a threat to, from not just folks on the right, but also folks on the left as well. And my staff here can all speak to it, because a lot of times, unfortunately, the people look the same. They just have a different ideology on the right or on the left. But I threaten the way, I choose, once again, going back to being put in the box, I choose not to be put in the box, right? So, yes, I agree with much of what you're saying, but also, I think we should be working with these people too. Oh, no, we got to cancel you then. We got to cancel you because you're threatening the way we want things to be done.
People don't like change.
Oh, and this is the place for it.
Yeah, the resistance. And people have a fear of failure.
That's right.
We as people of color, we feel failure. But failure is where we came from.
That's right.
We grew through failure.
That's right.
So we have to recognize that we got inner power that most people don't have. As long as we band together and do what we're supposed to do, get educated, get recognized. When I say recognize, do the right thing, but also support each other. And I see these young people that you have working with you, I think is something that's special.
Thank you.
And they should recognize the opportunity that you're giving them, because this is powerful, beyond years.
And I think about, I'm glad you said that, because imagine if our ancestors, who were forcibly placed on the ship, just decided to give up. And some did, right? Because they refused to be enslaved. And so some did say, you know what, I'm not doing this. But I always said, the reason that we are here able to be around this table is because someone didn't give up.
That's right. Yep.
And someone didn't give up. And so when I hear the word I hate the most is, I'm gonna quit. I can't do this. You gotta take quit out of your vocabulary. It's a must.
I had a young man I talked to a couple of weeks ago, and I thought he was in school, in college. Tremendous wrestler. And I said, what's up with this? I thought you were gone. And he said, well, my parents told me that why don't you go to college and fail? I said, so if you go to college and fail, you just keep going. And, but what happened, he said that they kind of, I don't care what they said. you love wrestling, they have tutors, you know, and they have money. You know, go. And matter of fact, I'm supposed to see him next week. But I gave him 2 weeks, and he's supposed to do some research on it. But you can't drive an ice cream truck. Good as you are.
That's right.
I said, good as you are, tremendous wrestler you are. But he's saying that his parents really kind of kept him from going because he kind of lost his confidence. He said. I said, no, they got tutors, they got everything. Tremendous wrestler. He can wrestle college easily, and I thought he was in college.
And I'm glad you pointed that out because I think we've all seen this before where sometimes folks in your own circle will say, man, them folks ain't gonna want to deal with you. Might as well get used to just being around here. You got to have it in your head like, you know what? Thank you, mom and dad. I respect that, but I got a dream. I'm going to go with you. And luckily, I grew up in a family where that whole sort of negative talk wasn't really ever, you know, we just never did that. My dad he never wanted me and my brother and my sister to be mediocre. And I use that in the way I govern the city as well because unfortunately, we put limits even on our kids here in public schools, right? We basically say mediocrity is okay, right? If you are, I don't wake up out of bed trying to be mediocre and average. I try to wake up in the bed trying to be excellent every day. And am I going to always achieve that bar each and every day? No, but at least I'm shooting for it. But if you tell these kids, all you're going to do always be is just be a C, they will eat that up and say, you know what, all we're going to do is be average kids then. And so we got to give our kids, their families, we got to let them know that their success matters. Yeah. That you can do this.
I read a book.
Open some eyes.
I read a book that said the same thing about the mediocrity. And it was talking about kids. It basically said that the whole world operates on mediocrity. And if you can just do a little bit above mediocrity, you're going to be way ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. And substitute teaching, I ask kids all the time, okay, pull up the power scope. Now pull up this one girl, all C's. I said, is that all you can do? And she said, I mean, it's a C. And then she said, Mr. Black, if I try to do any more of this, I get a headache. I said, no, you got to get
sell yourself short.
I know. I said, that's what I told her. I said, no, you got to get headaches. And I said, you know, you guys, 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock at night, in order to get it, did you ever do that? No. No, tell her to do it.
I have some. So Bob, it's funny that you talked about sports and about the challenges. So do you think it's good for people to have winners and losers? You know, when I was playing football, we had people that won and people that lost, and then the winners got trophies. Just that. Now you see where everybody getting trophies. You see what I'm saying? So if you talking, they need to feel that loss so they can bounce back and say, okay, I mean, we lost this year, but we coming back next year stronger. But if you giving everybody across the board trophies, I would love to have one too, but it was fortunate I had to work to get it finally when we won. Because
I'm not a believer in just getting a trophy because you participated. You know, because now they don't pick teams anymore. And I know this can be a very sensitive topic for some people and whatnot, because you want all the kids to feel good and all that. You can find ways still to make a child feel good, but also we have to prepare the child for the real life.
That's right.
And the real life is you're not gonna win everything, right? But there's an expectation now, generations, right? I'm a millennial, but they got Gen Zers behind me that, you know, well, I'm supposed to get this, right? Like, wait a minute, no, that's not how this works. Am I wrong, Terrell?
Right.
I mean, I've seen, and you see it now play out on the way society works. Heck, last year, some of that protest was sort of that. I thought. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because now I don't see those folks. It was something to do at the time. I mean, everybody feel good, right? And that's what we are. That's what we kind of unfortunately built into our children and generations now, is that everybody has to have. Well, this makes me feel good, so it's okay. is not. Sometimes I think it's okay to still pick teams. I think you should use a jump rope to not this whole imaginary jump rope, and I hear some of these schools are doing now. No, it's okay. Because that's teaching the kids that that you're not going to win every single thing that you do. But now that I think there's an unfortunate expectation that's built into the mindset of some of our, oh my gosh, the school rejected me. How dare they? There's other schools out there.
That's right.
Right? Come on now.
There's a lot of things, not to cut you off, but
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of things they're taking out of school. I went to school in Richmond and I went to Alabama. I went to school here, they had lunch buddies. Now they don't have things. They took prayer out of school. They took TV, what it was, Channel 1.
Oh,
They
yeah,
took
Channel
that
1.
from us.
Yeah.
Kids don't have that anymore.
I remember Channel 1.
I watched when Left Out burned the house down. I watched when she died.
Or Anderson Cooper used to be.
I watched all of that in school.
In school.
That's watch that school.
Channel 1?
Channel what?
Yeah, this is before your time. Before your
Yeah.
time.
Midnight.
Before your time. And after some of that time.
I watched all of that. I have seizures.
Uh-huh.
I was at RTC. I passed my, what was it? What's that test you took?
ASVAB, yep.
I passed that. Like I said, I have seizures. I was on my way to the service. I couldn't even go to service because of my seizures. That put me behind. I graduated, finished school, moved back to the city. And from 21 until 27, all I did was run the street. I moved back to the country. Now I'm doing good.
Good.
I have 3 wonderful kids.
Good.
My church family, I love them to death. And I'm getting married in 5 years.
Okay.
I haven't, like today, coming through the city, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm saying to myself.
Little flashback.
I hate saying it, but there's people on the street that I've known for years that are on drugs. And I'm like, man, if I was living here, I probably did.
Good thing you moved away.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I tell folks about Central Virginia, the Richmond area, is that you got the city. If you want city life, we got city life.
Yeah.
Right? If you want a suburban life, we got suburbs, Henrico, Chesterfield, we got that too. We'll live in a house in a cul-de-sac, we got that too. And you want rural country, we got that as well. Amelia, Nottoway, Dinwiddie, you name it, we got that too. So I think sometimes folks, because the grass is not always greener on the other side. When folks say, I'm leaving Richmond, I'm gonna go somewhere else, I'm gonna go to Baltimore, I'm gonna go to Charlotte, and they end up coming back and saying, man, the Richmond area is better than I thought it was. I was like, yes, I told you this before you left. That's why you back,
There's a book by Bruce Wilkinson called The Dream Giver, and it talks about who can be the roadblocks in your life.
Yes.
And that your family members can be some of the biggest roadblocks, especially for these children that's growing up for their parents to say, the C is okay, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. Like the mayor said, you gotta find something to challenge you and conquer that challenge and move on to the next one.
That's right.
And I did that, working for the department. I came in as an officer, so I felt that every time that I got promoted, it was a new challenge in my life for me to continue to do. And so you definitely got to find something that challenges you. You cannot let your family, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your mother, your father, be a roadblock in your life. You have to reach your own potential and do the things that you need to do.
That's right.
But sometimes you got to reach outside your family, like organizations like this. Because if you go into a household every day and you hear the same negativity,
That's right.
or you don't have any outlets, you got to have someone who can reach out to you and say, hey, it could be done.
Yeah.
Because sometimes your family can be poisoned.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They don't know it, they love you, but they have the box mentality.
That's right.
Right.
That's
So how you
right.
going to teach somebody that has the box mentality not to have the box?
That's right.
You can't do it.
And I love what y'all are doing here, because I've seen it even in the city where there are some young people who don't go outside the 9 square blocks in their neighborhood.
Right.
And there's some people who don't cross the river, and when they do cross the river, they think it's the ocean. That's how small. I mean, that's the box that we were talking about right here, right?
Yeah.
And so when, because there are also some families don't allow their kids to be a part of programs like this where you get to see other things, and because as you said, they're still living in that same box. And I mean, I had a grandmother who was like, "Oh no, you can't spend the night at other people's houses and whatnot." That was my grandma's thing, whatever. But as I got older, though, I was part of Boyz State as well. I would go to football camps and everything like that, and you start to see, wow, it's a whole. When I stepped foot on my first college campus, I was like, wait a minute, I mean, they live here? and the person was like, yes, they live here. I was like, there's no gate that they can't come in and no, this is where they live and they go to school here as well. Blew my mind. And when I went to James Madison. When I first went to James Madison, I met someone, they said, oh, I'm from Nova. I said, like Villanova? They're like, no. Like Northern Virginia, ever heard of it? I was like, no, never heard of it. I've never heard of this place called Northern Virginia with Loudoun, Fairfax, Arlington, all. Never heard. That's how, even, I thought I was cultured and knew things, but going and stepping foot on college campus with all these people from a different walks of life, changed my life. And so to our young people, it's my hope that your goals include college. Because it will change. It was one of the best things. It is the best thing I've ever did for myself was to go to college. The best thing.
Yeah, I went to all black high school. And feelings was not an option. Not just for me, all the students. I mean, those teachers they were adamant about you doing what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And you didn't come in without your homework or anything like that. And for instance, I was a pretty quiet guy, pretty good student. They said, oh, you don't like talking, right? No. So you know what they do? They put me on the debate team. And they chose what college to go to. And they tell your parents, because the parents, just like they hadn't graduated. So if the teacher said, let him go here, then they say, you go there. Mm-hmm. So I go from an all-black high school to an all-white college. Mm-hmm. And so you talking about, that's why I was telling the young man about wrestling. I said, you talk about somebody's, fear. I said, you know what took my fear out? I said, I had 24 hours a day. I said, so it wasn't abnormal for me to be studying at 2 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. I was not going to be the first black athlete at school that failed. So I was up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock to study, but to keep the whole thing, you got to have somebody that's going to give you, and my parents and uncles and everybody, they did not want you to be on that farm. We want you off this farm. And we all were off, but they never said negative things. And
what I've seen here in Richmond is we've seen a breakdown in that, mm-hmm. right? The family getting, things are not as cohesive as they once were, particularly when we talk about the community.
Right.
Because back in the day, when you were doing wrong in the community, someone would be like, hey, your boy down here messing up, I'm about to get him.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do that anymore.
No, you can't do that. Yeah.
But that's the sort of, that community itself, it created so many successful people. And I mean successful in terms of folks who got a good job, went off to college, taking care of their families. But now we're not getting that same sort of production out of our neighborhoods like we used to. Because now everybody's to themselves, don't talk to my kid, don't touch my kid.
Right.
And then you get disrespect. Now I've seen disrespect from the kid to the parent and the kid to the teacher. Right. And my whole thing is this, if a kid is disrespecting their mom and dad, then they ain't got no respect for you as a teacher as well.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm. And then they show up to school and you're like, oh, I see what's going on. No wonder they talk to me this way, because they talk to their parents this way as well. Now, I always try to avoid, and then my team's looking at me now and it's like, oh, don't say it. When this is amongst, I always try to avoid, because you never want to get in telling folks how to raise their families. And that's because that's for the families to choose, obviously. But we had rules in my household, and we had consequences as well. And the consequences, let's just say you didn't want to have to deal with the consequences. and you know, and that was that. Unfortunately, in some homes there's no consequences. And the reason there were consequences because my dad always said, "I'd rather you face the consequences here instead of facing the consequences in the street or in the jail."
And if there's no consequences at home, then that child grows up with that whole mentality, not knowing that once he get out here in this world and do something that he or she should not.
That's right.
The consequences are still there. You might not know his consequences.
That's right.
But the consequences will hit you when you stand in front of that judge and he get ready to sentence
That's
you.
right.
He gonna show you.
That's exactly right.
He gonna show you his consequences.
And I think that's what's missing now. I remember back in college, I listened to Michael Eric Dyson. He came to campus, and he said that. And he said the reason that black families use corporal punishment, or physical punishment with their children, was because first, that's what unfortunately as slaves they experienced that as well. And they said, "I'd rather do this to you before the white man finds you and does it to you." And I was like, wow. And that's exactly sort of what happened in my household for a long time was exactly that. But once you learned and you were respectful and whatnot, it went away. I appreciate y'all coming to the city.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd like to read our mission and statement
Sure.
to the mayor so he can give an understanding of what we are. And our mission is we enlighten young men through Christ and discipline, order, and structure to become your men, as we're telling the parents. And we're coming from the scripture, 1 Corinthians 13-11. When he said, when I was a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. And our vision statement is to strengthen and encourage young men while making a positive difference in their lives through fellowship and ministry. I just wanted to give you a little bit more.
Y'all doing exactly that. Doing exactly that.
Yeah, and that's the goal. We just, like I said, that's my grandson. We really want them, and I wish we had had more to meet people such as yourself, so that they can see that it's more than what they see on TV. This is a real person that have made it, and they can make it too.
Well, let's take a picture so they can, all the other ones can know what they missed out on.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. What's the best way to